First Sip Brew Box is a one-of-a-kind subscription service for craft beer lovers based right here in Pittsburgh. Every month, First Sip will send you a box full of craft beer enthusiast essentials including t-shirts, glassware, and even food. Right now, our friends at First Sip Brew Box have an offer for you. Just sign up for a 3-month subscription and get your 4th month free. Just enter the code HOPNationUSA when you sign up at firstsipbrewbox.com. That's HOPUSA at checkout to get your 4th month free at firstsipbrewbox.com.
Woe to you, O earth and sea.
It's the Hop Nation
USA Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another fabulous edition of the Hop Nation USA podcast. I, of course, am one of your fabulous hosts. This is Adam. As you can tell from a little bit of the background noise, we are not in our normal studio, that being my kitchen, but we are actually live here on location. We are at the Rock Bottom Brewery in the Pittsburgh Waterfront area. Is it area, district? What do we call it? What are we calling that? It's just the Waterfront.
You call it Homestead.
We could call it Homestead too. In the neighborhood of Homestead, we are here at Rock Bottom, and since we're here, that means that we have a special guest. Ghost.
Yeah, sure.
I prefer ghost.
Yeah.
Special ghost, coast to coast. But that voice you heard was not me. The first voice that you heard was Steve. Of course, Steve is here. He's on the knobs. He has to be here.
Yeah, of course I have to be here.
That's true. And the other voice you heard was our very special guest tonight, the head brewer here at Rock Bottom. That is Meg Evans. Well, Meg, welcome.
Welcome
Thanks
back.
for having me. Yeah, welcome
That is
back.
true. That is
Round 2, electric.
This time we're actually going to talk about what she does in Rock Bottom, as well as what she does for Pink Boots Society, and maybe we'll get into a little Brewtal Beer Fest again. Just maybe.
I am A-okay with that
To
topic.
be determined.
So first things first, usually what we do here on the show is we like to, whenever we're on location, we always like to try the beers that that are available here. So I think it's time we jump right into our first beer, don't you think?
Yeah, and we can let Meg introduce our very first Rock Bottom beer.
So I'm pouring first honeycomb cream ale. Every year I typically try to do some sort of honey beer for the summer. So this one came out a little bit later than I typically put out this honey beer for the summer. About maybe like a month and a half ago, I took a trip to Austin to be part of the Honey Beer Summit, which is through the National Honey Board. And so the whole idea of it was like a few-day conference where, I learned all about brewing with honey and different ways we can use it, different types of honey, and learned more about bees and stuff. So when I came back, I knew I just wanted to probably include honey in every single beer that I'm doing, just because I was so excited about honey and bees in general. So I approached this beer kind of last year. I did a similar beer. I had the base be a cream ale, so I wanted it to be nice, refreshing for the summertime. And I wanted to incorporate honey in kind of a different way. I definitely took my time with this beer. Usually I'll go into a recipe and I'm like, okay, well, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know when I'm going to add the honey. Whereas this one, I kind of took it day by day, and I kind of felt out and tasted the beer and figured out, does this need a little more honey? Does it need another day? Just to be at a certain temperature. So I don't know if careful is the best word to use, but I was definitely very cautious, and I wanted the beer to kind of showcase the honey that I used and not necessarily be too cloying or overwhelming, if you will. So that's the beer you're trying. The honey was from a local farm called Badillion Farms.
Okay,
Cool. Do you have any numbers on ABV and
the other one, IBU.
the IBU?
Putting me on the spot. So I'm pretty sure this one came out around 5.6. IBUs I kept really low. I want to say they were closer to 18 because I'm pretty sure I looked earlier today.
Yeah.
So I wanted it to be really balanced. So I kept the IBUs lower up front and kind of balanced them out throughout the recipe, or the boil, I should say.
Cool. Well, on the first look, it definitely looks, you said you were shooting for a base cream ale, and it looks, like a cream ale.
Spot on, absolutely spot on that. Head retention.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's got a nice white head on it, just like you would expect with a cream ale.
Yeah. It's a real clear, vibrant, kind of gold.
Yes.
A little lighter than a gold.
Yep. It got some good effervescence to it as well. On the nose, I like it. It's got a good... It's malty without being obnoxiously malty.
Yeah,
And I think you must get some like those like wildflower characters on the nose as well, which is I thought was really interesting.
yeah, it has a freshness to it that you don't smell with most cream ales or lagers or anything else that's like super malty. This is a lot more fresh and light and bright.
I think there's only one thing left to do.
I drink it.
We got to try this bad boy.
Sorry, I was already drinking it the entire time.
Oh, don't apologize for that.
It's your beer. You can drink it whenever.
That's very true.
But yeah, that's a really nice, easy drinker. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really great for the summer.
That's a back porch beer.
Yeah.
That's beer.
Yeah, I felt like it was a little dangerous. I'm like, this is gonna be a good summer beer. Like I'm gonna drink the heck out of it.
Yep.
Last year when I did it, I actually did it closer to Brewtal Beer Fest last year. And I felt last year's batch was a little bit sweet, so even for Brewtal Beer Fest, what I did was I added coffee to it. So I'm probably going to spike a couple kegs with coffee because I got a lot of great response last year.
Very nice.
Over that.
This has a real, there's a sweet aftertaste to this one, but it's not like sickening sweet or anything like that. It's just like sweet, but you also get a little bit of those wildflower notes with it too. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I knew I had to taste it, like add a little bit of honey at a time, let it sit for a day, taste it, maybe, and a couple times I roused it back up to ensure that, I was getting as much honey character as possible. But the base beer, I think, really was the best platform for it. It's very dry. There's really it's not too complex itself. It's a really nice canvas, and I definitely think we hit it out of the park for this one.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
3 out of 3.
Yeah, for drinking in the summertime, yeah, this is a good pick. I like this one. So with that, I think we can get a little more into the meat and learn. I don't know if that's.
No, I don't think that's right. No, I don't think that's right.
Okay, get a little more in depth into Meg and what she does here at Rock Bottom, and Rock Bottom itself. This is our first kind of corporate gig.
Is that a thing?
Me
No.
too. This is my first corporate gig too.
No, we're not getting paid, Adam. It's not a real corporate gig. We're just at a corporate location.
Wait a minute. We were getting paid before?
It's the
No.
C word around here, guys. That's the C word.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
That which shall not be mentioned.
The C word. But Rock Bottom is definitely doing a lot of good things with their beer and are become very localized. So I just would like Meg to talk more about that.
Where do I start?
Well, could you start? There was a period where Adam and I and a bunch of our friends were coming down to Rock Bottom for trivia nights. And part of that was we would always get glasses with all their funny brews that we're making. They also had things like the Brakeman Stout and stuff like that. But then it kind of became very C-word, and it dropped down to Rock Bottom had 4 brews, and it was a red, an IPA, a stout, and that's what they were called.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe start from that period on, because there's definitely been a shift again in recipes and the beers being offered here.
Yeah, I mean, even from when I started here, things are much different now. I think it kind of went back and forth. So, probably the time when you were here, they were definitely trying to still keep with that localized feel. You weren't going to every location and having Brakeman's Breakfast Stout. Whereas then when I came on, we had just gotten, I don't know if bought out is the best word, but we merged with, the company that owns Gordon Biersch and a few other specialty brands. And they definitely wanted us to shift to focus and all have very similar feel. And that included having all of our house beers were the same, with some variations given that location's decision on what malts, yeast, et cetera, to use. And then about maybe a year and a half after I came on in 2014, so that's now 2015, they basically did the complete opposite. They're nope, do whatever you want. Just make sure you have a light, hoppy, and malty beer on. And I think it was kind of a test. They wanted to see what would happen and what styles really stuck out, because each location didn't always have to have a Kolschan or a blonde ale of sorts. They just wanted a light variety. And, but maybe I think they let that go for about 6 months. And that's around the time I took over as head brewers, when they kind of pulled back the reins and they're okay, well, you still have a lot of autonomy. We just want to have a similarity. Each location has some sort of Kolsch, red, IPA, rotating varieties of wheats, rotating varieties of dark beers. So, if you go, I was in Nashville for CBC a couple months ago, and he had a Kolschan, but it was different than mine.
Okay.
So we each get to create our own recipe for that, and I think, as the years go on, we at one point had to do like multiple quote unquote corporate recipe beers where it was more about the branding, like they were creating something for us to market, for example, Rocktoberfest, Fire Chief Ale, Wicked Elf, etc., which I named all the ones that we still do for whatever reason. And they were giving us the recipes at that point, but even that has progressively diminished. So like this past year, Fire Chief Ale has always been up to that location. It just has to be a red variety. Again, it's all about the marketing. They want us to do something with like a local charity, usually including a fire station of sorts. So I think as far as like the corporate end of a lot of things here, that it all comes down to marketing. They want to help us bring business in with marketing, and they're creating this brand for us. And so even when I did Wicked Elf last year, they just were like, do some sort of Belgian dark, and in the previous recipe that they gave to us, I felt like it was a little too hoppy. So I definitely backed that off and got to make my own decisions there. But again, it was all down to marketing. Like at one point we were giving glassware for it. They were giving away hoodies as like a promotion for our Rock Rewards members and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're at now. I think this year we're on par to maybe have only like 3 corporate marketing plans as far as recipes that we're pushing. So Rocktoberfest is coming up. I haven't heard that we're not doing that, but I always like doing an Oktoberfest anyway. Yeah. So, and the rest
it's a good town to do it in.
yeah, and it always goes over really well. So yeah, and I assume we'll probably do Wicked Elf again, but those are the only ones we have. But again, there are recipes, and we do have a lot of flexibility. So outside of those things, everything on tap right now is all my recipe. There are different recipes of different varieties. I still get to sit in front of a computer, usually on Mondays, and look at a schedule and say, hey, what should I brew next? I still do that, and, order my own grains, figure out what I want to put in each of these beers. And, it really doesn't, it's probably the exact same thing that any other brewery really does. It's just who's paying the bills is really what differentiates us, and those few marketing platforms that we do.
That's pretty cool. It's obvious from just looking at the draft list that there's some beers that are definitely local for our market.
Right.
Probably, obviously the biggest selling one is the Uppity Jagoff IPA.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to find that in Nashville.
I would hope not.
No.
But has that ever happened? Have you ever sent any of your recipes to another Rock Bottom location?
Our brewing team in general is pretty tight knit. We try to, if we ever have any questions, we always are shooting emails to every single brewer. Like the structure on our end for the brew house is really simple. I have a regional brewer, and then there's a VP of brewing operations, and they're all brewers. They've been in the industry forever. They know what's going on in the industry, so they're very understanding. So it's kind of nice to have that balance when I do with day-to-day as restaurant people. I don't think I personally have given a recipe. Actually, I have. Yeah, I have given plenty of recipes away. I'm trying to think. I was just thinking of an example, like this woman, Carly Smith. She was, shout out to Carly, because I'm sure she'll listen to this at some point. I think she was asking about like a stout I did one time, and so I just shot over a picture of the recipe I did. Another guy that was in Portland was looking, kind of trying to redo like a Cascadian Dark Ale, which I haven't seen around in a long time, but I remember a while ago I did one and really, really liked it. And so I gave him this is what I think about this style, and this is what I think about how we could approach things and some ideas. And so that's the kind of how the brewery side really operates. And it's pretty cool. It's nice. There's a few younger brewers that, I think are pretty tight knit, and we kind of have email chains from time to time that talk about what's going on in the industry.
Very cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
So have you ever seen people going the other way, where they've become so enamored with one of the corporate beers or one of the beers that they've seen at all the other locations, and they just get upset that they can't get it here?
There's nothing that's that fluid right now. I've heard of in the past, I get a lot of people remembering older beers, regardless if it was something that was at every location. And I think that's something that some people have forgotten, is they went to a random Rock Bottom in wherever and had a beer, and they expected that I might have it here. And I was like, well, no, you had it there.
That's not how this works.
You know, and so I've had that a couple times. I've definitely had people like, my location actually ships beer up to our Boston location. It's just a tap house, so any beers we make here usually on tap there. So if you're in Boston, check us out.
Cool. I
You
did not
should
know
try our
that.
beer. Yeah.
Yep, awesome.
And there's this regular up there. She's so sweet. She calls me from time to time. I've never been able to meet her yet. I've gone up there a couple times, and we always seem to miss each other. But she's like, the first time she called me, she specifically asked for this like Belgian beer, and I can't remember the name. It was like wild. It was kind of like all funked up or something weird like that. And I'm like, I really don't know what you're talking about. I don't know a recipe. I've never made that beer myself, but I'll try, you know. And that was kind of, besides like her really showing appreciation for the beers I make from afar. We get some of that kind of stuff of people really wanting, you know, I think there's like a lot of loyalty to the brand almost, like because it's been around so long. So if you walk in here at like 11 a.m. any day, you're going to see like the same few people, and they're the best, you know, come in, chat, and
You've got regulars just like any other place.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty awesome. Another thing I like, and it's kind of what got me back into Rock Bottom after the
dark times?
Yeah, after the dark times, is that I've seen Rock Bottom at a number of events, and they've always come out with something crazy.
Yes.
As like a collaboration, fully showing that autonomy is back among the brewers. But like you guys had a Cool Ranch Dorito beer.
Those are dark times for me,
Well.
guys. I'm just letting you know. But yeah, no, we definitely can do crazy stuff like that. That was the last I'd purr.
Well, yeah. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a great beer. I didn't necessarily love it, but
Trust me, I
I did love that it was something other than just red IPA.
Right.
You know,
I mean, he hit the mark when he was going after it.
Yeah.
I gave him that, but I tried it one time. I took one sip, and I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I like literally do not want to try this again. Like, but he hit the mark for sure.
But even more
Ruined
recently,
a bunch of kegs too.
Yeah.
But.
Even more recently, though, and I know it's a beer that it's your recipe, Meg, is you had a glitter beer at Beers of the Burg. And you're, I think, probably the first and maybe only person that's brewed a glitter beer in Pittsburgh. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
It's the only one that I've seen, I can tell you that.
I mean, I really don't want to be coined as like the glitter brewer. I really don't.
You were the-
but
no, you
I
were the
was
first.
first in Pittsburgh, and that's fine. And I'd like to leave that there. But yeah, no, I mean, it was more so fun. I feel like drinking beer is all about the experience, and so when I was looking at like the idea of putting glitter in a beer, because I had seen women like on the West Coast doing it years before I ever got a chance to do it. I actually bought glitter and like sat on it for almost a year because I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know how to do this, whatever. And you know, I finally gave it a try, and it's just fun, you know. Like, I think it definitely gives the guests something to look at. And the particular one you tried was, I was trying to make a galaxy beer. So I was taking one of the dark recipes I had, Daily Grind, and adding like a gamut of colors that would mimic the galaxy, and it definitely had some character there.
Yeah, it totally did. It totally worked, and it was a good beer, and it's exactly what you said. It was fun.
Right, and at that venue, it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah. It was really hilarious to see it, because like I think there's a little bit of me that gets a kick out of like dudes that like get so turned off because they're like, oh, it's glitter, I don't want to try that. And I'm like, no man, but it's like the beer, it's like glitter does nothing besides what you're looking at. And it was just, I was kind of getting a kick out of it, a personal kick. I was like, yeah. But when I got them to drink it, I got even more excited.
I will admit, I was one of those guys.
That's fine.
I will admit, because we had talked about that on the show
I
previously.
got a kick of you
then
not
you
wanting to
are
try
welcome.
it.
But it was one of those things where I will admit, at first I thought it was purely a gimmick, but I didn't look past it to the actual beer until I tried it. And the beer itself was really good, with or without the glitter. Obviously, the glitter is not going to change much in terms of the taste or the feel of the beer, but, you know, it was just good beer. And oh, by the way, there's glitter in it. How can you not love something like that?
Yeah, and I think like that goes with like I think approaching to a lot of that whole idea can apply to a lot of different things. I think no matter what, like if I put glitter in the beer was bad, people would instantly just think that glitter beer was bad.
Right.
You know, if I was doing some sort of like I don't know, I was adding like an herb to a beer and the beer was just not very good. The herb wouldn't help, like, the base has to always be good no matter what you're doing. And like, even when you approach mixed fermentation, that's like a better example. Like if the base recipe of what you're doing going into that isn't good, then, what you're coming out of it's not going to necessarily get better just because you put some bacteria in it, know?
Yeah. I'm sure.
It might, but it's probably not.
I'm sure somewhere out there, somebody had a coffee stout when they were first coming out, and the base stout wasn't good.
Exactly.
As good as coffee stouts are.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite types of beer.
The base of the pyramid has to be solid first and foremost.
So yeah, they probably got turned off from coffee beer. So is there anything upcoming at Rock Bottom, any events or any beers that we should look forward to? You talked about like the Rocktoberfest, which that's always good for Pittsburgh and its German population.
Yeah, well, I feel like, I try to plan out as far as I can, but a few things, going out maybe a month, you're going to try a couple things, like besides the honeycomb cream ale, which I'm pretty excited about, you're also going to try the Brut IPA I just put on. Pretty excited about that. Two things, so next month is a beer fest called Fresh Fest, and so I'm collaborating with Sarah Honey Young, and she's an artist, she does web design. She's pretty incredible and she's doing a lot of great stuff. So trying to take some inspiration from her. TBA on the final style, I had something in the works, but I think I might change it up a little bit. But I'm really excited. So come to Fresh Fest, plugging them. That's really, really cool thing to have going on. And then also it was a few weeks ago, my two brewers and I, Evan and Lauren, they were doing some canning, I was brewing, and we were just listening to music as we do when we're all working together. And they put on a playlist that was for booty bass music. And I don't know if it's because I'm younger than them or not or what, but I was I have no clue what this is. I have no idea, but I'm so fascinated. But we decided in that moment that we needed to make a beer called Booty Bass. And it's going to be a fruited lactose sour.
Very nice.
We're going to can it.
Very nice.
Yeah. We haven't decided. I think it could be something that could always be rotating. I can show you after the label design so far. It's pretty hilarious. There's a twerking strawberry. That's your only
I'm in.
insight.
I'm already in.
So we're still deciding what fruit we want to add this one. I have 11 boxes coming in from Oregon Fruit, so we're going to have fun with it.
So with you mentioned canning, are cans only available here on the premises, or are you distributing out anywhere in Pittsburgh?
It's just on site, and that's something that's different too for Rock Bottoms. Is I was the first one. There's a random specialty brand that was the only location that was a test site for some canning, but as far as Rock Bottoms go, I was the first one to buy a can seamer from October Design. And that allows me to fill literally individual. It works like a crowler, but it allows me to fill 16 and 12 ounce cans. That was something that was kind of not necessarily approved, but with some support from my GM, we got it done. It was pretty hilarious. The first time I posted a picture of a can, I within 2 hours got a text from our VP of Brewing Operations. He's like, "What is this? I thought this was a dead topic." And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't realize it was a dead topic.
But look at it. It's cool.
I thought that was an internal decision. And he was pretty cool after that, and he liked the can, and it was all kosher. But that spot, I know just recently, at least one other location's already bought one of the seamers so they can do some small scale canning. It allows me to do I don't know, I do 10 cases or 10 4-packs of something at a time. I don't have to do huge runs of anything. I might can a barrel of beer versus 15 barrels of beer, Right. And it's really nice. I just kind of maintain and have fun with it and try new stuff. And it's been pretty rad.
Yeah, that's cool that we're one of the only markets that actually does it.
Right.
But it makes sense because you kind of have to remain competitive that way, considering everybody else that can.
Because otherwise you'll fall behind.
That was exactly my pitch to everyone. I was Rock Bottom, the C word is so haunting at times. And, I have a lot of pride for the work that I do. I try to put as much effort into everything and thought. And so, when I see us almost falling behind because, there's so many new breweries opening up. So now people have tons of different options. So that pie is now just getting cut up. And that's cool. It's great. I'm excited for where that's taking Pittsburgh. But as far as Rock Bottom goes, we're now, that's the first thing that comes to mind for most people. And it's been my uphill battle since I took over as head brewer, is trying to make sure people understand that, the overlooming corporate lords are here, but me as a brewer, everything I do day in, day out is me and 2 other people. And, nothing can change that.
Like you said, the big difference is who's buying the grains.
Yeah.
Who's buying the yeast. That's the big difference.
Right.
Yeah, the fact that you're still remaining innovative and putting out things that are along with the market that everybody wants to drink.
Right.
I don't make that differentiate, between corporate and, true independent. I don't know. I don't think it fits the same way as comparing these beers to a macro.
Right. It's not fair.
I just don't see it. But I do see that my glass is empty. And Adam's is pretty close.
Yes, I was savoring it, I'll be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
that's why.
It's hard for me to savor. I just want more. But back to this honeycomb ale. This is really good. This is really refreshing.
Yeah. It kind of teeters, flirts, whatever you want to say, with getting into the Saison category a little bit with the floral back end.
I don't want to say that. I don't like those.
What, floral back end?
I like these. No, Saison.
Oh, okay. Okay, well then, Steve, plug your ears. But no, this is a really good beer. I really like it. It's quite enjoyable. And bottom line, I would have another one.
Oh, yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I'm assuming these aren't one of the ones that are canned, right?
No, not now.
Yeah.
I mean, the moment I had my husband try it for the first time, he was like, "You're putting this in cans, right?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't get a kit label done in time, But yeah, noted for next year.
Yeah. As Adam already said at the top of the segment, this is a back porch drinker. This is something you just sit out on a hot day
and just enjoy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely good beer. All right then.
What do you say we take a quick break?
Yeah.
Get not paid.
Right, get not paid.
And then come back for segment 2?
Yes.
We'll go in a slightly different direction.
Right, and we'll be joined by another guest.
So stay tuned, Hop Nation. We'll be right back.
Check this out. There's a Seattle company called Tavour that enables discovery of new and exciting beers and breweries. Tavour gets the best independent beer from literally around the world. Denmark, New Zealand, Belgium, and of course everywhere in the US. The app is incredibly simple to use to get some ridiculously good beers delivered right to your door.
And right now, anyone who signs up with the code HOPNATION can save $10 off their order of over $25. That's TAVOUR.com, Tavour.
Hop Nation, we are back. Thank you for paying attention through that. I guess we call that an ad?
Yes, that's an ad break, Adam. Welcome to...
Listen, I'm not in the world of editing.
I know. And obviously you don't listen to the show either. You don't know that we've been...
No, I actually do listen to the show.
You don't know we've been advertising Tavour for probably about 6 months now, I think?
Well, actually, yeah. Speaking of which, I got to talk to you about that after the show.
Good.
So welcome back, everybody. As previously mentioned, we are here at Rock Bottom, here in Homestead, Pennsylvania, one of the fine neighborhoods of Pittsburgh. We are here with Meg Evans, the head brewer here at Rock Bottom Pittsburgh. Obviously, Steve is here. Obviously, I am here. And we also have ourselves a fourth guest. A fourth mic, a second guest.
Yeah, there you go. You'll get there.
Listen, I've only been doing this for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. You figure eventually I would know what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, you got it.
You would be wrong.
You're there.
So, our second guest, our fourth mic, Brooke, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So just a quick introduction. Who are you?
I am Brooke Franus. I co-own Stewards of Beer, which is a craft beer promotions, marketing, and event planning company here in Pittsburgh. I've known Meg for many, many years. Actually, she and I met when we were both brew guides at PA Brew Tours, which is one of the tour guide companies here in Pittsburgh. And then I got interested in the whole Pink Boots Society thing. I've been coming regularly to the meetings, being an active member a little over a year now. Active in the Pittsburgh beer scene as much as I can be, and enjoy drinking good beer.
Very cool.
Awesome.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna back you up for just a second. You had mentioned the Pink Boots Society. Mm-hmm. What is the Pink Boots Society for those that aren't aware?
Maybe Meg would be a better person to give the pitch for Pink Boots. She might have the elevator speech down a little more than I do.
I don't know about that. Just joking. So Pink Boots is an all-female beer professional organization. The main goal of the company is to help promote women in the beer industry through education. That's been the biggest focus from the beginning. Where they are now is, even just a few years ago is when I think they pretty much started instituting these, but they offer scholarships on a monthly basis. Right now, I think there's like 3 offered this month. It's pretty insane. But really, they want to try to help women grow their careers, grow as whatever their position in the beer industry is, through education. But any woman can be part of it, whether they're a brewer, sales rep, owner. They do guided beer tours, whatever, literally anything. They can be part of the organization.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool.
If I could just self-plug here for a minute.
Sure.
By all
I actually
means.
won one of the scholarships that Meg mentioned. Back in December, I applied for a scholarship to get me the Beer Savvy e-learning course to prepare for the Cicerone Beer Server exam.
Okay.
And included the cost of the exam. So in January, I found out that I won that scholarship. And in March, I completed the e-learning course and then took the beer server test, and I passed. So yay.
nice.
Congratulations.
Cicerone Program Certified Beer Server. Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, I think we're going to spend a little more time in this segment learning about Pink Boots Society and Meg and Brooke's involvement in it as well. But
However,
we have a second beer to get to.
and we must get to it.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited for this one.
So, Meg, why don't you introduce our second beer of the evening?
So the second beer we're trying is called Mountain Stomp. It's a smoked porter. Instead of like your typical like Beechwood smoke malt, I really wanted to, because I've just never been a huge fan of that type. Like in certain styles, I definitely have, but as a whole, I was like, no. I wanted something more subtle, something really that would be more smoke oriented, that would like remind you of like an actual campfire. So I used like an oak smoked wheat malt in this beer, and it's really nice and subtle, really nice body to the beer. I'm a fan already. I think if I did it again, I might up the smoke just a tiny bit, but all in all, I think our guests will like it, because it's not too aggressive. It's very, very like delicate, if you will.
Kind of welcomes you into the realm of smoked beers rather than punches you in the face.
Welcomes you to the barbecue, if you will.
Ah, very nice.
Just recently, just to plug ourselves, I guess, a little bit.
I mean, that's why we do the show.
And actually plug another podcast. But we had a little interaction with Adol Rafai from Hello from the Magic Tavern, and he was asking about smoky beers.
I saw that, yes.
I haven't had this one yet, so maybe I can add this to the list of smoky beers he should try.
I have a hunch we're going to be adding this to the list.
Probably. So on the look.
Yeah.
It's dark.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Meg did a really good job of describing this beer, so I don't know that we have much left to talk about.
Yeah, we don't have to describe
You
it.
can talk about the dark malts. How about we do? We'll go with that. That was one thing I was like, I should talk about how I approach that.
It definitely on the nose does have that campfire smell,
Yes.
but I also get some of that dark maltiness to it.
Yeah.
It's all there.
I think there's only one thing left to do.
Yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, let's just make this happen.
I think I've always been partial to porters in general too. So like approaching this beer too, I was like, oh, I mean, so many people do stouts and porters and add smoke to them, but I really love like that, like sweeter, like more malty. Like I think sometimes stouts can almost borderline being like I think acrid's the best word, or aggressive. Like it's, I love the pleasantness of porters and how like welcome they are to like each taste. Like they're more, a lot of times I'll usually use a nice variety of different dark malts to create more of like a balanced character. And I think it really works well with porters specifically.
Yeah, I think because porters, they are always on that a little bit thinner than a stout and, the less booziness. This it balances well with that sweetness and the smokiness.
So unfortunately, you guys have already said everything,
Yeah, sorry.
especially on the porter side. Obviously, with a dark beer for newcomers, everybody would expect that to be a very heavy beer, very thick beer. This is not that. This is honestly, it's got a lighter taste to it compared to the color of it, but it's still very welcoming, and it's obviously got that nice smoky taste to it. So once again, I think it's a winner, and I think we have to add this to the list.
Yeah, it balances really well. So yeah, Adol Rafai, if you're listening, or if I tell you to listen or whatever.
You're going to send him a threatening tweet?
That's right. Expect it.
You will listen, and you will enjoy this.
But yeah, it's really well balanced with that sweetness and smokiness. I just can't That's why I keep getting hung up on.
Well, let me ask you, do you think there should be more smoke? I mean, I guess that my personal, I'm like, yes, but maybe if enough people tell me no, I'll leave it as is.
Yeah, I think smoke is like hard to work with. I'm another person of the idea of just like, I want it like really smoky. Like almost like coal.
Yeah.
I stuck my face in the fire. Like,
Yeah, years ago I had this, I think it was like some sort of like, it was a lighter smoked beer that Lavery did. And like, I remember it being so aggressive, but it almost like mellowed out, like your palate totally just adjusted, and it was like satiating after that, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, I think it is definitely a fine line. And though I do feel like if it goes too far to the one side, you're like, that's all you're drinking for the rest of the night.
Yep. So I'll be the dissenting vote. I think it's the perfect amount of smoke.
All right.
I think it's right on, because if you go just a little bit too much on the smoke, it doesn't matter if it's a little bit or a lot of it. It's just too much. And I think you're just right with the amount of smoke on this one. Now, obviously, that's my personal opinion, and you're the expert.
Yeah, well, I was approaching it in a very, again, cautious is, I guess, my term. But, like, you know, we have a lot of guests because we have so many regulars. Like, if they come in, they're going to try any dark beer. Like, there's certain guests that, like, doesn't matter. It could be anything. And they're like, just give me the dark beer. That's what they want. So I didn't want them to, if they weren't necessarily a huge fan of smoke, to still enjoy it and have that pleasant smoke character, but still enjoy a good porter.
Right. And that is one thing with smoke beers. If it goes too far, you have to know what you're getting into to be able to enjoy it. But if you're looking for just kind of, you know, Joe 12-pack to try a beer, to get into that smoke realm, I think this is perfect for that. And even the regulars to enjoy as well.
I'm going to agree with Adam on that too, and say I think it's the perfect amount of smoke, because I think it makes it more approachable for a lot more people who may not be necessarily looking for a smoky beer, but they're looking, like you said, they're looking for whatever that dark beer is, and it's not going to turn them off, and maybe it might be a gateway for them to seek out more smoky beers in the future. And yeah, so I think it's really approachable, and I think you could have a wider audience enjoy this beer than just smoky beer fans or just porter fans.
well, I mean, we're all in agreement that we like the beer, though. So
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that.
so we can do with that.
Yeah, bottom line, it's a winner.
So let's move on to just Meg and Brooke, your involvement with Pink Boots Society. How long have each of you been involved with the organization?
As I mentioned earlier, I've been involved officially a little over a year. I was kind of a lurker on the outskirts for about a year before that, but it just seemed that every time they had an event, I was never able to make it. And then the more I started looking at the guest lists and whatever, I was like, I know almost all of these women already. Like, this is such a cool group to be a part of. So I'm going to make it a priority to start going to their events. And one of the things that I like, there's a lot of things that I like about it. One of which is the camaraderie. Like I said, I already knew a lot of the ladies in the group already, but I've met a lot more people in the industry. That's always a great connection to have. I like that there's always some sort of educational element to our conversations and our meetings, and it's always something different. There's not necessarily a set rigid format that we have to follow according to, you know, the organizers of the group, but one time we learn about an off flavor, one particular off flavor. One time we learn about fundraising efforts. One time we learned all about Meg's visit to the Honey Beer Summit. So there's always learning to be done and sharing of, you know, what people are brewing. Like, I'm not a brewer, so sometimes, you know, you might think, well, I don't really have anything to add, but I do still have things to add, like industry trend conversations and just what's going on in the local scene and that kind of thing. So I like being involved and staying sharp on with just what's going on in the industry that I'm a part of.
Yeah, I love that you even mentioned that, like, we all have kind of something to add. Like, I think the biggest catalyst was when I first moved here. You know, I didn't know anyone. I was just seeking out, again, the camaraderie, finding other women who are in the industry. And I mean, at the time when I moved here, there weren't that many. You know, they might have been an owner of something, but there weren't brewers, there weren't, you know, people like really in depth in the industry yet. And so I had started doing collaborations at least once a year right around International Women's Month. And those kind of spiraled into into what is now Pink Boots. You know, I just had such a wonderful experience working with these women where, I mean, it's not like really like I'm talking shit on anyone at all. It's just like it's like a refreshing feeling to work with a group of people like who are really passionate, that it was just like, well, why are we not establishing ourselves as something? And from there, I don't know, Pink Boots was still growing too. You know, they've been around for 10 years or 11 years now, but it really took until just a couple years ago for them to kind of almost become official. I don't know if it's a great word, but they created a better platform for us to organize our meetings. They offered up structure for how each chapter should operate. And, like she mentioned it, they are still kind of free form, but in general, we have somewhere where you can sign up online. We have a way for people who haven't come, to pay to come to an event. We have these tools now.
Something that I really like that was just a recent change, like as within the past couple of months, as I understand it, is as long as Pink Boots has been in existence, there has been a fundraising component, and I have participated as an outsider in some of the events that Meg and some of the other members have coordinated over the past few years. And then now that I'm a member, of course, I'm even more vested in that effort. But just a couple months ago, they changed some of the financial stipulations so that money that is raised from the local chapters doesn't all just go to one big pot internationally and then get divvied up however they see fit. A lot of it now stays with us locally in our own chapter, in our own city. So we haven't started to spend any of that money because it just happened, and we're just, it's a collaborative effort. It's not like there's a board. There are a couple
co-chapter
leaders. Okay. So we do have, like a governing board, so to speak, but they are not the only decision makers. It's definitely a group decision, and we're slowly talking about how do we want to spend that money that we ourselves have raised on behalf of our own local chapter. So I can't even speculate what that's going to be yet because it's still such a new idea and we still have such a small amount of money in our kitty. Right. But I love that we get to benefit from what we have raised, from the funds that we have personally raised over the past couple of years. So that's something I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and like talking about that, I was just up in Boston and I was talking to the chapter leader up there because I think it's a huge incentive for us to actually do this. We want each chapter to grow. We want to bring more women into the industry. We want to help more women, grow within their own personal careers. And so up in Boston, they had 25 different collaborations. Wow. It was pretty incredible. Like we had 2, which was a growth from usually doing 1 a year. And she was talking about how much they raised, and that was the biggest thing they talked about is they wanted to be able to utilize it internally, whether it's sending women on, usually Pink Boots every year does this Germany trip, and so they want people to kind of be immersed into the culture. So she was like, I want to send a bunch of people there, but that's the type of stuff it can be used for. Yeah. It's like this, and I think it's cool though that it is so centralized to women though too, because seeing stuff like the Master Brewers Association of America start a chapter here, that's kind of stuff that they're doing, but it's more on a general basis. It's not necessarily, and it's more focused on brewers only, whereas this chapter can offer something to any woman from any background who might want to do something in their career that can help grow not only just their own career, but community, because people can help one another. I don't know if I actually touched back on it when I said that I was appreciating that you talked about everyone having something to offer, but that's really what I have always looked at this chapter as being, is that, I'm a brewer, but I know nothing about accounting. I know nothing about necessarily operating a business as far as the ins and outs. Yeah, and I think anyone can teach me that, if maybe they have a great background in marketing. Those are the type of things that I want to internalize and learn about.
That actually dovetails nicely into something else I was going to mention, which is the networking angle. Because of my involvement with Stewards of Beer, I think I brought 2 more of my employees into Pink Boots Society, and just recently plucked a member of Pink Boots Society to become one of my team members. Okay. So it's a really great networking opportunity to, I met this girl at a meeting, and then I saw her again at the next meeting, and she said, hey, I might be looking for work in case you have anything. And I said, I actually do have something. Let's chat. And that has, turned into the beginning of a great partnership. So
Very cool.
That's
Awesome.
something that I'm really grateful for as well.
So a question I have, and it kind of relates back to segment 1, we were talking about Fresh Fest, August 11th, featuring a co-host Dennis with a collaboration beer with Allegheny City.
Hint, hint.
Fresh Fest is based on all black brewers and black artists and business owners pairing with breweries to, put on their own beer fest. Is this something that Pink Boots might be researching with the money that you're now getting for your chapter?
It already exists.
It already exists.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it started, I think they just finished their second one, but it's called Beer to Femme. It started in Asheville, North Carolina, and the last I heard when I was at the Craft Brewers Conference is they're interested in the idea of bringing it to other cities. But yeah, that's the whole idea, is they want to bring as many female brewers, industry members into the festival and do just that. But
Right.
So any thoughts of it coming to Pittsburgh?
I mean,
Are you pushing for that? Is
Yeah.
what I was really trying to get to.
Personally, as someone who operates a beer fest, I would love for it to come here, but I also understand the amount of work that goes behind
Right.
doing that.
And the amount of, we have a lot of beer fests in Pittsburgh.
We certainly do.
sure do.
Yeah.
Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of them have different audiences and whatever, but it's a competitive effort.
Yeah.
But something that we have talked about in our chapter is getting a group of us to take a road trip to a Beer to Femme Fest.
Ah, okay.
I mean, they've talked about
Wherever.
Philly, and I think Philly would be a great area because Philly's so much bigger than us,
Yeah.
and so already they have more female brewers, but also it's not hard for us as industry people over here to go over there.
Very
Right.
accessible. to us.
So I think it's just better suited right now for bigger cities.
Yeah, Philly seems like more of a central hub for people from Pittsburgh and New York. They can come down and everybody can just kind of meet there.
Sure.
So yeah.
I still think also that our Pittsburgh chapter of Pink Boots Society still has a lot more work to do to get the word out about who we are and that we're here and what we do. I fear that if we tried to promote a Beer to Femme kind of thing in Pittsburgh right now, people would see it as, oh, you're just another beer fest. Even though we would try to push the female, angle of everything, I don't know that it would have the steam that other cities that Pink Boots Society is larger might have.
You might
our
just sort of get lost in the noise of all the other beer fests in Pittsburgh.
yeah.
Sure.
So I think we have a little more work to do first to grow our chapter and to establish a name for ourselves as an organization in town, so that people aren't like, well, what is that? Forget it. I don't want to research it. Our membership is pretty. I mean, it's growing all the time. But what are we up to? 40, 50 members?
It's no more
something
than
like that?
40, I think. Yeah, I think officially.
No more
yeah.
than 40 officially, and at any given monthly meeting, we might have a dozen or so, depending
Yeah.
on people's schedule. So we still have, a lot of recognition to,
Yeah.
put out there before I think we would be very successful in hosting a Pink Boots Society Beer Fest here.
And using those funds, I think, will really help us too. So, the more we're able to use those funds to bring, possibly larger names or women or even men who do pretty rad stuff. For me, everything's all about education anyway. So, I think anything we could bring to that will also, especially if they have a bigger name, perchance, it'll help highlight, what the Pink Boots is really doing. And I think those are types of things that are on the horizon.
So that leads to a very easy transition to any women out there in Pittsburgh that are part of the craft beer industry. When's your next meeting? How can they get a hold of you? How can they get involved?
Our next meeting is actually next Monday, July 16th, I believe it is.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what the meeting after that is. But again, personal plug, July 16th is the day that I will be making my presentation all about my scholarship award. Part of the stipulations that the Pink Boots Society puts on a scholarship win is that you have to fulfill a pay it forward requirement, which to them means you either write an article for one of a handful of recognized beer journals, or you make a presentation it could be your local chapter meeting, or it could be a larger CBC or something like that. I'm not planning to go to any larger gathering, so I'm opting for the local chapter meeting. And then once I fulfill, and I'm going to be talking about what winning that scholarship meant to me and how it's going to benefit my career and things like that. And then once I'm done, I earn myself a pair of pink brewer boots, which I'm very excited to wear at next year's collaboration brew days. So July 16th is that meeting. We have a meeting every month It's usually on a Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
It's usually at a different brewery or alcoholic type facility that's often closed on a Monday or Tuesday,
right.
so that,
You can just be you.
well, yeah, we can just hang out and
So,
have privacy.
do you think they might give you like half credit for being on a local podcast?
Maybe like extra
you ready?
credit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like some bonus.
Yeah, just start doing your presentation right now.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, any other meetings, you can go to pinkbootsociety.org and I'll literally, as a member, say you're traveling and you notice that another chapter has a meeting, you can go to another chapter. So, chapter meeting, I should say. All of our meetings get posted there too.
Very cool.
And I did learn that it's actually an international organization.
International, yes.
To the point that you have chapters in Australia, New Zealand, and even in parts of South America.
Japan, it's kind of hilarious to see not even hilarious, it's really awesome to see the day before we start doing our collaborations. Typically we'll see people in Asia doing their collaborations. I'm like, oh my god, that is so I'm so taken back. And it's the reach and how much this organization impacts people's lives. Just me personally, I haven't necessarily been able to meet people internationally yet, but I feel like I could literally go to any city and meet up with someone. Some of my closer friends now, I met through the Pink Boot Society or because we were both members and somehow crossed paths, whether it's social media. And it creates, again, this network of women who offer a different type of camaraderie than just, me as a brewer. Typically, most of the people I turn to are dudes, but it's really nice to have a handful of women that I feel really comfortable with, that I, not worried about any sort of judgment or someone having to feel like I need to, toughen up my image to talk about something or pretend like I know something. There's just none of that. There's no male hate at all or anything. It's a different type of camaraderie when you're dealing with someone of your same sex. I really value that in a lot of ways.
Very cool.
Awesome. I'll be honest, I didn't understand that Pink Boots wasn't just brewers. I thought it was for brewers only. I didn't know it was for anybody who's kind of involved in the craft beer industry. So I think that's also cool that you can reach out to people who have that financial knowledge and that marketing knowledge and just reach to anyone for anything.
Come at it from different angles that people wouldn't expect.
I think Meg being a brewer is actually in the minority of jobs that exist in our Pink Boot Society. I think there's you and Lauren, and that might be it as far as brewers for their profession. The majority of our local chapter is everything but. So.
And that was what the biggest bitch early on. I was just yeah, no, don't worry. You don't have to be a brewer. It's all right. Just come hang out with me and talk to me about what you do. I want to know,
So I guess that's good for drawing in new members as well. It's
right.
You don't have to be a brewer.
Right.
Right. I've been trying. Anytime I see somebody on social media that I realize has some sort of official, professional connection with something in the beer industry, every time I come across them through other channels on social media, I'm always inviting them hey, we'd love to have you join Pink Boots. Hey, we have a meeting coming up. Hey, and I don't know if my efforts specifically have led to any new members or not, and that's okay if they haven't, but I'm always keeping an eye out oh, I didn't know that particular brewery had a female GM. Let's invite her to a meeting,
right.
And that's how you learn those kind of things, how many females are in managerial type or professional capacity positions in the beer industry in Pittsburgh.
Cool. Well, I think that we learned a good bit.
Yeah.
I know I did learn some things because
more than I was
pretty
expecting.
dumb.
It was pretty
I feel like we took over the podcast there for a second.
What we do.
I'll let you in on a secret. I don't care if I don't have to talk for a bit. I do it every other week.
But I will talk a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to get back to this beer that we have right in front of us.
Yeah. Well, again, mine's gone.
Well, I intentionally left a little bit here for just the final review on the back side of this segment. Bottom line, this is a good beer.
Oh, yeah.
I know we talked about it at length earlier, but bottom line, this is a good beer.
Yeah, I'm speaking for myself personally.
Yeah.
I can drink dark ales any time of the year. July might be a little hot for some people.
I'm glad it's air conditioned in here.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
This is definitely being inside, drinking beer, but it's really good and it's really balanced. I like that a lot. And this plays to my personal taste.
Right. I'll tell you what, this one, I wouldn't even necessarily put this one next to a campfire, but I would put it next to a fireplace in a cabin. Just on a snowy Saturday night, sitting next to the fireplace and just sitting on a big, comfortable couch and just being fully relaxed.
You're making me miss winter right now. I'm so anti-summer.
But hot.
So warm.
So this is the beer for that, bottom line.
But still drink it because it's out in July, guys.
I was actually thinking, you said not necessarily around a campfire. I kind of do think around a fire pit, only because I'm thinking pairing this with s'mores would be
Very true.
delicious. The
Yeah.
sweetness of the marshmallow, the toasted marshmallows, and whatever chocolate you decide to put
Right.
in your s'mores, I think would pair really nicely with this. And again,
We're in
it's not-
Pennsylvania. It's okay to say Hershey's.
No. I meant like if you're going to put like a regular Hershey chocolate bar, or if you're going to go crazy and put the Reese's peanut butter cup in there instead. That's what I meant. But I think that the sweetness of those things would pair nicely with this. And obviously you can't make s'mores without some sort of fire, whether it's over a campfire, fire pit, whatever. So
I do have a hilarious story, guys. So I was for 4th of July, I was at a party and someone brought a pizza cooker, like a smoker pizza cooker, like pizza oven thing. And I'm like sitting there. I just gotten back from Boston, so I'm like drinking a beer that I got back, and I'm like, this beer just like all of a sudden tastes really smoky. I was like drinking it, and I'm like, is this beer smoked? Is this? And my husband looks at me, he's like, no, Megan, you're like directly in the line. It's like it totally encompassed my mouth, and I was like drinking this beer, and I'm like, I'm okay with it though. It was pretty good.
It works.
Time to set notes. Hey, have you ever thought about smoking this beer?
So if you're a really cheap home brewer, just set up
make everybody taste your beer around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The only
super
place you can
smoky,
try
guys.
it.
Super smoky.
All right, then. I think we can take a break and go to segment 3, and we'll be back with a third beer.
Well, ladies and gents, welcome to Lady Bitch Time. Lady Bitch Time is a program invented by me, your lady. Not so much. I am like the most extreme tomboy on this planet. But that aside, this program was invented to bitch about whatever the fuck I am feeling like at this moment in time. You can bitch with me. In fact, in the future, I will be bitching about something that you need to bitch about. Who knows? I'm your host, Amanda, and new episodes will be airing every Tuesday on the Pew Pew Audio Network. So stick around, bitches.
Hop Nation, welcome back. We still didn't get paid for that segment break, but that's okay.
That's because that was a podcast ad. They never pay us.
I know they don't.
That's a service to the community.
That's right, the podcast community, and they always pay it forward. They always help us out as well, so we thank them. As previously mentioned, we talked about it in segment 1. We talked about it in segment 2, so of course we got to talk about it in segment 3. We are live. I really wish I could go into a full WWE,
Oh my gosh, that
Or
would also
Bruce
make
Buffer?
my life
Yes.
right now. Can we sidestep this for 2 seconds?
Sure.
Oh my god. At the Craft Brewers Conference, I was asked to participate in an all-female arm wrestling competition. WWE South.
Did you get entrance music?
I did.
Nice.
So it's the Boston chapter does this. They're actually doing one next month. They do them, I don't know if it's quarterly or every few months. I don't know when they do it. But they have them coming up. So I was asked to do it. And my husband's super into WWE. I never really acknowledged that this was a thing in my world that would possibly exist until he came along, and it's hilarious and awesome and so much fun. So when I was asked to do that, I instantly asked him to help me. He was my valet, which
Nice.
Oh, very nice.
oh my gosh,
Yep.
so you're in Nashville. Okay. I come in, my entrance music, I obviously chose a metal song. So I was like, I had to play the heel. I wanted
get that
heel
heat.
is so much more fun. So much more fun. So he's really good on a mic. If you ever want someone to really come out strong for you, ask my husband.
Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart.
No, oh my God. I'm glad you mentioned that because he was coming at us being the mouth of the South, Jimmy Tart, because it was all beer themed. I was Meg the Imparer. He was mouth of the South, Jimmy Tart. We made a thing of it. This existed.
That's fantastic.
So he comes out though, and he instantly gets me booed because he brings up, he's like, wheelin' dealin', kiss stealin', Nashville Predator beating, Pittsburgh pagan, and everyone roars and boos. It's hilarious.
Nice.
It's so good. And I ended up killing everyone.
Great.
Done. Yeah, it was awesome. And like, though I have to admit though, I was so messed up for like at least 3 weeks after that. Like so I did the normal tournament where I was like arm wrestling, and so it was like right, left, right. So I went through that one, and then they started being like, hey, who wants to arm wrestle?
Oh, jeez.
So
You want some? Go get some!
there was this chick from Point Brewing Company who was just like, I'm gonna fucking beat her ass. Like, I could tell, I made everyone mad because no one could beat me. Like, look at these arms. You can't do that. Like,
Meg does have a set of guns on her. I would fear for Adam.
No doubt about
I
it.
haven't lifted kegs my entire career for nothing.
You earned that.
I earned these arms. So then they had me arm wrestle the Boston champion, and I beat her. And actually, when I was just up there, I got to see her again, and we were just like, it was all good and fun, all in good fun, and it was hilarious and awesome. And so that's my WWE story as of late.
So it's amazing how many times that this podcast goes into the WWE realm, more than we care to admit.
Well, let's see.
You should always admit it. I think it's super fun.
Yeah, let's see. The two of us watch.
Yeah.
I watch more than you do.
Yes.
But then we've had James, her husband, on before. So obviously we talked about it then. We've had
Jason Sircone on.
Sircone on, and he's way into it. So
every time he'll be like, so the Jasons are talking. So it's like Jason Sircone and Jason Collins and James all in one text group that are like, so they're just like talking about it. And I'm like, why is your phone blowing up right now? Like, and it's obviously like wrestling's on TV. And
for now, though, the champ is here. So I guess she can introduce the third beer.
Yes.
the champ. I like that. I like how that sounds. Meg the Imparer. You heard it here first. So what we have in front of us is a Brut IPA called Unchanged. So this is like really interesting. It's my first go at it. And like I mentioned, how I was kind of very cautious in approaching the honeycomb cream ale this year. I did the same thing with this though, because I didn't know what to expect. Regardless where, like when I went into the honeycomb cream ale, I had an idea of where it was going to end. I just was like being cautious and tasting along the way. This one, I was like, I have no clue what's going to happen. Like, I don't know if I'm going to have diacetyl problems. I don't know how I should hop this. I don't even know what hops I should use in this. So this style kind of emerged out of San Francisco, and the whole idea behind it is you're basically making like a champagne IPA. In like talking to a lot of different brewers from a lot of different regions and seeing how they're approaching it, I'm pretty happy where this first one came out, but I guess I'll go into like where a lot of people are thinking. So the whole idea for it is that you're making an IPA. The malt bill is fairly simple. Some people add corn. Mine was base, a little bit of Munich, and a little bit of oat malt. Those are just personal choices to kind of give a little bit more of a malt backbone. You want to have almost no bitterness in this beer at all. So like, as far as the kettle edition, I brewed we boiled the entire thing at flame out. We cooled it down to 180 degrees, pitched hops. So it was the only kettle edition. And everything else happened in our fermenter, where we did 2 different dry hops on it. And roused them in between so that we can kind of keep that in suspension. And this was just, again, a personal choice after coming back from Austin. I really wanted to incorporate honey into a lot of things. And so I wanted this almost to be like a honey brut. You probably won't notice as many notes of honey in this one, though. I don't know, I don't really get many. So I was adding that along the way of fermentation as well. But once fermentation looks like it's terminal, you add this enzyme called amylo 300 by BSG. It's an amylase enzyme that basically breaks down the remaining sugars that are in the solution. So typically, if whatever you mash in and like however you, whatever kind of yeast you're using, you know, you're gonna ferment down to a certain degree. I use Play-Doh. Some of you might use specific gravity. Some of you might use something else. And so, like this one stopped right around 2.3, and so I added the amylo, and it basically broke down those remaining sugars that for the yeast are a little bit too complex for it. So it broke them down into smaller chain sugars, and it ate the rest of those. And I think the honey helped a little bit too, but I mean this thing ended at negative 0.1.
Nice.
After rack. I was pretty impressed by it. But so when I was looking at it, when I heard the idea of, okay, I need to make this Brut IPA. So when I hear Brut, I think of champagne. What characteristics come to mind is champagne? I want it to be dry. I want it to have a little bit higher carbonation. And after talking to some brewers, a lot of them were also kind of incorporating wine-like characters. I had heard of some people using wine must right in the beer, and then other people were using hops like Hallertau Blanc or Nelson Sauvignon, like to create more wine-like characters on the hop side of things, because it is a very hop-forward beer. And I definitely didn't do that for the hops, so I definitely used more traditional hops. It just has a really lovely aroma. I think it's very tropical. It's so appealing. I love drinking this so far. But this is my first time doing it, so I'm up for talking about it. It's just one of those things that's interesting that it's not overhyped yet, and so I'm really excited to explore it. And as a brewer, you know, things get overhyped. I'm like, well, why do you like it so much? Do you like it just because other people like it, or is it because it's so good? And I mean, for me, it hits so many points. Like, I do love hop character, I do love low bitterness, but I also like dry beers. You know, I think they're very satiating. I want to keep drinking them. So, yeah. What do you guys think? I'm going to stop talking.
So, well, I mean, you can stop talking for a second, but I'm going to ask a question.
Sure.
You mentioned how you got that Play-Doh like all the way down. What did the ABV come out on this?
It's about 6.9.
Okay.
So my starting gravity was about 12.3, but I also had to include the fact that I was adding honey to it. So even though it was dropping, the yeast was still eating that additional sugar that I was adding to it. So that kind of bumped it up a little bit, you know, then it ate it, bumped it up. So it's, you know, it's adding a little bit of gravity to it. But based on from like the 12.3 to 0, that's around 6.5 ABV. So I kind of assume about like a few, like that
Fair enough,
0.4.
Right on.
All right. Well, looking at this beer, it's picturesque. Like there's not a whole lot of sediment floating around in it. You can tell it's obviously different from all those hazy IPAs that are all the rage right now.
Hey folks, but it's still hazy, okay?
Yeah, it's still hazy.
And I fined this one. I actually like put a fining agent in it, and this is where it came out. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
right on.
Yeah, it's still definitely hazy, but it just has that clearness. It actually, on the looks, reminds me of a Belgian.
I would put it on the realm of opaque.
Yeah.
That's a 50-cent word.
Yeah,
we could use that.
You got that one.
So on the nose, this thing it certainly presents itself.
Yeah, there's a lot of hop on the nose.
Yep, and it's definitely in that tropical realm. A lot of floral notes on it.
Yeah, you can definitely tell it was a dry hop because it just all hop.
Yep.
But I like that. Adam doesn't.
I will approach this with an open mind. There are 7 on the list, so that means me liking this is a possibility.
It's a possibility.
And I approach everyone.
It's a new style, Adam. You got to go for a new style.
And it was really interesting. Like, I had learned a couple of people, like, there's some brewers right now, like, with the whole idea they want to get it dry, very dry, but, like, some people are totally against this idea of using an enzyme, too, which, I mean, amylase exists in, like, the whole brewing process anyway, but, like, adding it as, like, almost like a secondary thing to your beer, I think it's a turn off for some brewers, but, like, I'm super into it. For me, I think everything we're doing is all about between art and science, and, you know,
yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, being that you already use yeast. And yeast is, that's a scientific reaction.
Right.
Yeah. Like someone gave me an example of one, and they were like, well, it didn't finish below 1. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not necessarily what this is intended to do. Like the amylo is really, like, from what I read about it, even if you use less than what it's even recommended, it's still going to do that work and get it down to 0. It just might take a little longer. So, I mean, the one thing I was almost nervous about with this, and like just more my experience in like doing more sessionable beers, was I was worried about the body being too thin. So I definitely had to take those into considerations when I was doing my like setting up my water chemistry for the beer, as well as that malt bill. So those were active decisions to use oat malt and Munich, which aren't typical for the style, but I think they definitely kind of helped with the body. They help with a little bit of that haze, which is that oat malt definitely brings a lot of haze to it. But approaching my water chemistry was like everything I was doing is I wanted some sort of balanced water profile, which also kind of I think helped enhance some mouthfeel to the whole beer. And I'm pretty excited. Like I was worried it would just be really thin. And like this has character to it.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Adam. No, you're Mr. Non-IPA. I was just going to.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. So on this one, since this was so new and so different, did you do a small test batch on it? Just a 5-10 gallon batch first and foremost? Or?
This is your small test batch that you're drinking right now.
Oh, never mind.
All right. So what I was going to say is I definitely taste like, I definitely get the oat malt from that, because the oat malt tends to add like a creaminess almost to beers, and this definitely has that creamy mouthfeel. But then it does finish really dry, like I guess you were shooting for. And we've had beers in the past that were IPAs, and they were a bit too dry, almost to the point like your tongue started to dry out.
Right.
But this doesn't do that at all.
No, it doesn't.
And
some people are saying though that they were like giving people a glass of water with every body, and I'm like, oh, that's fine, whatever.
What I like about this one is it doesn't have that hop residue. It doesn't kind of stick around like you're chewing on a hop pellet.
Sure.
I know there's a lot of IPAs that do that, and there are people out there that like that, and they're
Yeah.
more than welcome to that opinion.
And I almost think this comes out like, as far as like when I've had different hazy IPAs, like I almost get a similar character where there's like low bitterness, really rounded mouthfeel. The tactical bubble feels a little bit higher in this one, but like still you're approaching it very similarly. You just kind of have to look at it slightly differently.
Right.
I think there's some hazier IPAs that I've had that just like don't make me feel great, and I think it has to do with the hops. And this one still has a really great hop presence, but it's approachable. It has a beautiful aroma. I'm just so impressed with the aroma. That was the biggest thing I took away. And earlier on, I think the yeast just ate up the rest of the honey, but there was a slight honey character to it.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those beers where if you want to get somebody into the IPA side of things on the hoppy realm, this is definitely one that you can give them and say, hey, start with this. Start with this. This will get you an idea, and if you like it, you can go bigger and bolder if you choose to, or you can stick with this, because I think this is a great gateway beer to get into the hoppy side of things.
Yeah, the nose might be a little off-putting if you're not into hops.
Right. I will agree to that.
Not for somebody like me, because I think it just smells like a nice tropical breeze. And then I also like just that quick, dry finish, that it doesn't have that residue, it doesn't have that bitterness at the end, because you can just continue to drink it. You want to go back for more. You want to taste it again.
It gets the hell out of the way.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm enjoying this beer. Brooke, do you have thoughts on it? I know you're drinking this as well. You've joined us for this one.
Yeah, as I mentioned during the break, I told Meg I didn't really know much about Brut IPAs before she said, hey, I've been following her notes on social media about it coming out soon, so I was excited, and I've heard a little bit about Brut IPAs in other areas, but I didn't really know what to expect. And I like IPAs though, so it's easy to impress me with an IPA, but I really do like, it's very different. I do agree about it could be like a nice gateway IPA for people because that bitterness isn't present.
Right.
But it's just I do beer samplings a lot. That's my job. That's what Stewards of Beer does. And I get a lot of customers who say, I don't like IPAs. Flat out, and I always say to them, they're not all the same. They're, what is it about? I try to get them to understand what it is about the IPA that they are turned off by, and usually it's the hoppy bitterness of a beer, but this would be an easy one to say, this is not going to do that for you. This is just going to be the aroma and the flavor and the so many other characteristics about the beer that are hopefully a check in the positive column for you, rather than just immediately, I'm turned off by that that bitter beer, I don't want to try it.
It is definitely much more interesting, and it has a lot more nuance than just a punch you in your face IPA, where they're just stuffing Simcoe down your mouth.
Like a classic green flash.
Yeah, well, like thinking about the bitterness of this beer is like one thing I was keeping in the back of my mind was like it's going to have a higher carb, and that can almost have this perception of having a bitterness that I knew that I had to take into consideration. So like making that decision to not add anything until I knew that I was like at a lower chance of picking up any IBUs, you know. So it's just a very interesting thing to approach, and like it's very intriguing to me to try these new things and approach them in interesting ways. And like I'm very curious to try a different hopping regimen, like because I love this thing, you know. Again, I don't know if I mentioned it here, it hits so many of these key things I love about IPAs, you know.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it would do with like a more piney hop or something more earthy. But
yeah, I have a couple people like talking to me about like using like Mandarin of Bavaria and like so I had one person going that route, and then someone else like talking about using like Mosaic and Blanc, and I'm like, oh, it's like very interesting. Like there's no concrete like this is exactly how you should do it yet, and I think so. I think it's still shaking out, and I hope it's one of those things that kind of like the Brut IPA. The Brut IPA is like an idea, kind of just morphs, and I mean I'm sure it'll become something that depending on how, like if someone does something a certain way very well, I'm sure that's how it'll kind of shake out. But for right now, everyone's trying different things. I am really curious about possibly using like wine must in this and seeing where that could go, because that'll create its own dryness of itself.
Right.
Because I think that match with like this type of hopping regimen like would be really cool.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty interesting. Can you plug when this one might be available?
Tomorrow. Yeah, everything's coming out this week. So.
Yeah. Okay. So it's probably already available.
Yeah. And when this comes out, it'll already be on tap.
Yeah.
And hopefully almost gone.
We have a little bit of time to have a little bit of fun and learn a little bit more about Meg and Brooke.
Well, I'm going to stop you there. A little bit more fun.
Didn't I say that?
You just said more fun. Or you just said fun.
Whatever.
It's more fun.
Shut up.
Listen, I'm just trying.
Who said I was having fun, guys? Excuse me.
I'm just trying over here, all right?
I'm just trying my best. All right, so we're going to have more fun?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But just as a way to learn more about, the two of you, we have talked earlier about how you would use that kind of that smoky beer for sitting around a campfire. We suggested the honeycomb as a back porch drinker. So I just kind of wanted to throw out some more styles of beers to you guys and see if you could come up with, other activities, other things that you like to do. Like if I said the Rock Bottom Incline Red, what is your favorite summertime activity?
Shotgunning.
I was hoping it was something light. My answer for probably any beer you're going to throw at me is sitting on my patio, just chilling, because that's how I spend a lot of my time in the summertime.
What are you
or
doing?
On a beer garden,
are you reading? Or are you just like hanging out and petting your dog? Or are you knitting?
Just kind of hanging out, maybe chilling with friends. Usually my husband is there with me. Our dogs are usually there too. So just kind of hanging out, recapping the day, talking about what craziness we've learned from Facebook that day. And, just all kinds of different styles lend themselves well to that. Or, doing that kind of activity in somebody's beer garden or like outside patio, something like that. But
you have to still do it in the summertime.
You don't have
you
to.
can't do that same thing in the winter. I mean, definitely. Touche. Yeah, I'm out there in the wintertime. Let's be
gotta
real.
believe in yourself.
I would probably prefer to wait till wintertime till it's like 5 feet. I'm like sitting out there like turkey cold.
But see, that's how it's easy. I was trying to make it hard for you guys. You have to think about summertime. You can't just opt out and be like, oh yeah, no, I'll totally sit on my porch and drink dessert stouts when it's 40 degrees out. When it's 40 degrees out. You can't do that when it's 80 degrees out.
You could, it just wouldn't be a good
it's
idea.
not a good time.
I once had someone propose doing a a chugging competition with sour beer, and I feel like that.
Nope.
And I'm just curious to see that happen one day.
That's the worst version of Drink Till You Can't that I've ever heard of.
Craft Beer Week. That's the event that I'm going to put on.
I would be interested. I would try that.
Would you?
Simply because of one reason. Simply because of one reason. I chugged American, or shotgunned, really. I shotgunned American.
On purpose.
On purpose, yeah. Because I had lost the beer pong game.
Oh, well, okay.
That was my worst beer experience ever.
That's fair punishment.
Probably about 11 years ago.
Yeah, and you still remember it.
I still remember it. It was terrible.
I'm gonna remember that.
I remember
I'm gonna like present to you. Like, shotgun time.
Yeah, I'll totally try to shotgun a sour, which is one of my least favorite styles. But I'll see if it's
warmer,
worse.
it might be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I'm not a shotgun connoisseur. I just honestly like. Few months ago was the first time I ever shotgunned, so it became like this thing for
me. Here I was thinking you were like a total pro at that.
No, it just happened to be like the first thing I shotgunned was an IPA.
Oh.
And so I was really like excited about this idea. And so it was like right after our first can run, and bringing it back to Brewtal Beer Fest for a second, we have this alliance group of like our VIP people, and like when I had them here at Rock Bottom, I had all these like low fills, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go show you I'm gonna give you a tour here in my brewery, but I'm also gonna make you guys shotgun a beer. And so it became even a thing there. It was just fun. I make my brewers there with me on Fridays from time to time.
Nice. That's not the worst Friday ritual at all.
It's fun, you know. You get a little goofy. You feel terrible for a second. You're like, yeah, that's awesome.
So I feel that the podcast needs a shotgun correspondent to check in.
That's me.
You know,
Just maybe monthly check in and, just send us an email and be like, I shotgunned these beers. This one was good. That one wasn't good.
right. We need to get you set up on the website. We need to get you a weekly series on the website.
This for sure.
Yeah, the Meg Evans shotgun report.
Who you brought into the shotgun
See,
fold.
you know what? My life. I can't say I'm a brewer anymore. I'm an entrepreneur. I create my own jobs.
Not sure how many of those jobs you can get paid for, but
I mean, you guys are
Whatever.
not
Details.
getting paid for podcasting.
We pay in exposure and experience. We mentioned it a couple times already, but just give you a moment, like Brewtal Beer Fest is coming up. Tickets are on sale.
Well, they're slightly on pause right
Slightly on
now.
pause?
Oh.
Because we, so VIPs are gone.
Oh.
Pre-sales are gone now. So we did like a very short, like not a short pre-sale, but we were only releasing a certain amount of tickets, and they sold out. So that was pretty exciting. Regular price tickets will be available on July 13th. Friday the 13th.
Very nice.
Super spooky tickets available. I'm pretty.
When this podcast comes out.
Very nice.
Yeah.
There you go. So they'll be available today.
So
all you
I was
listeners
right
out
when I
there.
said tickets are on sale.
Yeah, no, and we're so excited, and we have even a few things in store that we haven't released yet that we're kind of still finalizing
Prices
now.
are good.
Yeah, no, it's like all good stuff. That it's just like if everything works out, I'm going to kiss myself. Like it's gonna be crazy.
shotgun a beer with yourself.
I'm gonna shotgun this year with myself. Give myself a pat on the back. No, but we have a really great team this year, so I feel like each year we try to just outdo ourselves. When I look at like our growth, it's always been because, we did that and I didn't think we could do that. So let's try this and see what happens. It's been very organic, and it's definitely tested my personal limits on what I'm capable of doing. And with other stuff in the works personally, seeing this go on, I just never knew I was capable of doing something like this. And that's also while I'm maintaining a brewery and working on other stuff. And it's just been a pretty incredible ride. I think it's definitely just setting us up though to learn more about hopefully future customers. And Brewtal's always been about the community. We've always been trying to bring communities together, bring network new people. And we've also been creating new beer drinkers because the metal community has always been, pitched, straw, PBR,
Right.
and those beers have their place and I happily drink them. But I think there's just being a brewer, there's just more to that. They would relate more on what if they knew that I took into consideration that I was inspired by this band's song, and they would also be like, oh yeah, love that song too, you know, like I can see where you're going with it, you know, seeing those inspirations, and that's what I'm hoping we, you know, get to people and showcase to people. And obviously the collaborations are huge too for us because, you know, I mean, one of the dudes I hired in my brew house last year was from the festival. You know, I probably never would have hired someone so green otherwise, but like I knew him, I trusted him, I knew his passion, and so I gave him a shot. And you know, that's the type of stuff that like Brewtal's doing, and I think it's just pretty cool for the beer industry too.
I can speak to Brewtal being a fantastic time for both beer drinkers and metal fans. Adam, are you ready this year?
So I do have the opportunity of being there as a first timer. Last year, it was on the day of days when everything was happening in Pittsburgh.
Oh, trust me, I understand. Trust me, the past 2 years of Brewtal, everything has been going on.
It seems like there's 1 or 2 days a year in Pittsburgh where everything is happening. Yeah. If you're sitting at home watching TV, it's your own damn fault. So last year I was at the Big Pour.
Yep. That was our biggest caveat. That when we booked the day, we're like, yeah, we're ready to go. We're not gonna have any beer fest in the way. Lo and behold, I was talking to another brewer about it, and I'm like, hey man, you want to come? And he's like, I think that's the day of Big Pour. And I'm like, fuck, it happened again. You know, because the first year we ended up doing it on a Sunday. It was the only day that was really available, but the day before was Beers of the Burke. So this year, at this point, there are no beer fests happening the same day as Brewtal Beer Fest, and I'm hoping that'll bring more craft beer drinkers. And I'm working on other things that will bring other craft beer drinkers into the picture, because, you know, looking at our attendees, you know, we get a really cool crowd on the metal side, people who are really just not there just to get fucked up. And we get a lot of great craft beer people who aren't too snobby, and they're like open-minded, and they're willing to try an ESB and not just an IPA, you know. So we get this really cool crowd, and I want to find ways to expand both and, you know, bring both together. And hopefully, I think it's just overall been a really cool learning experience.
Well, I can tell you have at least one more coming this year. Right here.
I always think collaboration beers are a big selling point, because it's a one time to get something new that you can't get.
Yes.
It would never exist otherwise. You know, that's why I think Fresh Fest is really cool too.
Exactly.
It's like, you know, it's like it creates an element for someone who's a craft beer drinker that they should understand that like these things are big for brewers. You know, we have to plan time. You know, we take an extra level of creativity when we go into any collaboration. You know, for example, last year when I was working with See You Next Tuesday, you know, I looked at their, you know, I listened and like took a look at their discography, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to take some inspiration from here, I want to take some inspiration from here, and I get to create something out of that. And that's where we really get to showcase our creativity. And I think it's so cool. You know, we really don't always get that chance. A lot of times we are just like trying to create beers for, you know, that will sell. You know, obviously we want every beer to sell, but like sometimes you go into it with the mindset like, you know, I know I'm producing this beer because it'll sell well to our customer base because they like these things.
It's kind of a test bed.
Collaborations are for me. Is what I'm really. I'm very selfish.
Can you announce who you're working with this year?
I have not been teamed up with anyone yet.
Oh, okay.
Megan, get on teaming yourself up with someone. I don't know. Usually, I usually kind of take either anyone who hasn't been teamed up, and we don't really have that. You know, I always ask a brewery if they want to take on that responsibility. I don't want to put so much pressure. And like, as well as then if the band's like, for example, this year our headlining band is Dying Fetus. So we've already had, like, I thought this bigger brewery would be, and they were into it at first, and then they're like, well, my wife's a gynecologist, and and that's not people take that shit personally. And like, I knew that going into this because months ago I was listening to the Jamie Josta podcast when one of the dudes, I can't even think of his name right now, was on the podcast, and he was talking about that thing. And I'm like, going into booking them, we're like, well, we're going to have some pushback, and there's going to be people saying things because people will take that offensively. And that's fine. But at the same time, for us, we're like, well, these are metal legends. They're badass, and they're going to kill it here. And they haven't been here in a while. People are going to be excited. So, but I understand the other side of it, of like, well, as a business, they have to take in consideration those things. Right. They have to. And, you know, so, I mean, if I was stuck with quote unquote Dying Fetus, then I wouldn't have been too upset. But no, I think we have another brewery paired up with them. So right now I'm just seeing what people are interested in working with, and then we'll make all those collaborations happen and start announcing and get all that promotion out soon.
Well, if you ever happen to book Rotting Christ, if that's an unannounced bench, I will offer my services as a terrible home brewer.
We have potentially 2 more bands to add right now that we're in the works of, but we haven't announced them yet.
Is it safe to assume that they are not a Beach Boys cover band?
Yes, Rotting Christ is not a Beach Boys cover band.
Okay, all right, just making sure.
I thought of a beach ball team.
All right, well, let's come back to this last beer, and we'll go to the podium after that.
Okay.
And we'll wrap it on up. But let's start with this Brut from Rock Bottom.
Would you like me to go first?
Yeah, I would like you to go first, Mr.
Please
I
tell me
don't
how
like
terrible
hops.
it is.
So it's actually not terrible at all. It's really not terrible. No, this is definitely, like we mentioned earlier, this is one of those gateway beers to get people into the hoppy realm. Will it make the list? No. No.
I just hung myself, guys.
However, I feel so bad now. No. However, I still will put this on the recommended list.
Cool.
I would put this on the list for people that are looking to get into craft beer, especially on the hoppy side of things. This is definitely one to have people try. Obviously, I didn't hate it because my glass is almost empty. And for what it is and what you're trying to do, I enjoy it and I appreciate it. There are other people that will enjoy it, but it's not going to make the list. I'm sorry. Oh no, she's got a gun.
All I want to do is drink this beer. Yeah, I would recommend it as well, but I also actually really like it.
Okay.
It's so smooth of a drinker. I like the creaminess that the oats add to it. It's got a nice nose to it, but like you said, it doesn't have the bitterness on the back end. It finishes really quick, and it makes you just want to keep drinking it. It's such an easy drinker. And I like kind of the profile of it. I like that it's not in the trend as currently,
Or it's on the leading edge of the trend.
yeah, it's not a West Coast IPA, even though it was developed in San Francisco, but it's not like a New England hazy boy, you know. It's, it's a good IPA.
I'm thinking you're touching nerves over there, Steve.
But yeah, I really like it. So yeah,
Right on.
that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I hope people give it a try.
Definitely. This is worth having a try.
I think too, it's just different for us, and like, I don't know. I'm hoping with the fact that people are interested in like more hoppier stuff, I'm pretty stoked on it, and I really think that this could change people's minds about Rock Bottom. And I mean, again, like when people are like discounting what we're doing, you know, they're personally discounting what I do, and you know, I want people definitely to give us a try.
Yeah, I think that's important too. That's partially why we did the episode down
Right,
here.
exactly, yeah.
It's like Rock Bottom's back, and they have like really good beers that are good for the Pittsburgh area, and they're experimental. Like, try it out.
Right, and we've had that conversation multiple times.
Yeah.
Of people saying, "Oh, Rock Bottom, why would anybody go there?" No, you got to go back.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
We've had that conversation with co-hosts.
Right.
They're like, what are you talking about? Have you been there?
Yeah.
That's typically the general conversation in any sort of, you see it online. It's like people start talking shit, and you're like, well, when's the last time you've been there? 10 years ago. And you're like, come on, seriously, why you're on social media enough that you're responding to this post that you're not keeping up with what every brewery's doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not even just saying that about my brewery, but like there's other breweries doing great stuff too that I feel like also just don't get as much of attention because they're not necessarily like trying to be those hype breweries. And that's fine. I think those have their place, and that's cool, but like beer to me never was just about the hype. It was always about this experimental, exploring flavor potential. And that's why this thing is so exciting, you know, because no one's overhyping it. You know, there's so much still to learn about what the potential could be to using this enzyme. You know, I'm already thinking about using it in other styles that I think it could be really beneficial in and create something really unique. But yeah, and so I'm just hoping that, you know, people keep giving other breweries a try. I mean, there's a lot opening, so.
Yeah. There's no shortage of breweries to go to in Pittsburgh. I mean,
P.S. Just come. Actually, only come to Rock Bottom, guys. Don't go to any other brewery. Just come to Rock Bottom.
all right. Well, I think it's time that we go to the podium. Brooke, you don't know this because you haven't been on the show before, but at the end of every episode, we like to take 3 beers that we tasted, and then we just kind of rank them bronze, silver, and gold. Doesn't really mean a whole lot because we're not, we're not A, experts, B, we're not saying any of the beers are bad. We're not. It's just, a fun little thing to see who liked what beer the most. And so, with that, I'll actually go first.
Go ahead.
Is this like the Marry, Fuck, Kill type thing?
Yes,
Of beer?
it absolutely is.
How are you not a correspondent on this show?
So my bronze, I'm actually going to give to that Honeycomb. I thought it was a really good beer, and we always preface this when we do this, especially when we have good beers all episode. No bad beers this week. But the Honeycomb, it just, I don't know, it just becomes third. That's all it is.
Somebody's got to be there.
I don't have a reason. Yeah, I don't have a reason. It's just out of my style realm for the most part. Like, as a cream ale, it's not, it's just not hitting those notes that I really like. So bronze or silver goes to the smoky dark ale because that hits a style I really like. That's all it is. I really like it. I like the smokiness. I like the balance between the sweetness and the smoke. It's not super heavy. It's something you can drink in July. It's not like a Southern Tier Blackwater series that's going to sit like a gut bomb. And, those are great, but you don't always need to have diabetes.
It's not often we talk about diabetes, guys, especially in the beer industry.
For gold, I'm going to give to the Brut.
Okay.
That is such a really good beer.
Champs here.
It's such a really good beer. I suggest it for everybody, and especially if you're kind of looking for something maybe new on the IPA trend. It has that creaminess of a cream style, but it's a little bit more. It has a really good mouthfeel to it. It's not thin. It's not overly bitter on the back end. It has a really big aroma on the nose. Like, it does everything that an IPA that I like. It's
right.
It's not a palate wrecker. It's not a 6-point resin. It's not, it's not a destroyer. It's a really good drinking beer is what it is. Mm-hmm. That's what I got.
Okay. Who would you like to go
was
next?
The Destroyer, though, so.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Can I just jump in and go next?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
My order is exactly the same.
All right, then.
Again, none of the beers were bad. Just that's my style preferences as well, kind of align with your same order. And I also just wanted to mention something that Meg said earlier about the Brut IPA, hoping that could maybe change people's opinion of Rock Bottom. I was thinking, along with our earlier conversation about it being kind of a gateway IPA, how cool would it be if that could possibly change people's opinions of IPAs, and how cool would that be if they would step up someday and say, I had this really good IPA that I actually liked, and it came from Rock Bottom.
IPAs in Pittsburgh right now. Let's rank them, guys. Come here, rank all of them, then tell me.
That's a good challenge.
I've only had
That sounds like
one
a
of them.
throwdown.
That's a bonus. That's
I'm
a
cool
bonus
with it.
episode.
I'm cool with it. At this point in my career, I'm cool with it.
All right.
I don't think we're not Bobby Flay in that scenario, but what we are the Iron Chef judges, the panel.
Yeah.
That's what we are in that scenario.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we'll come in for that.
All right. Let me know. Yeah, you tell me when, you tell me where.
Does Meg get to vote? Just curious.
Yeah, she can vote on our
All right.
beers. We do that all the time.
Yeah, let's
All
make
right.
this happen. You are center
Bronze.
stage in the spotlight.
Smoked porter. I love it, but it's my bronze. I do love it, but out of the 3, silver is going to Honeycomb Cream Ale because I'm also in love with it. And number 1 is Unchanged, the Brut IPA. I'm so overwhelmed with how much I enjoy it, and I feel like, you go into it and you're like, I love all my babies equally, but you're like, right now I feel like I chose these beer because right now they're like my favorite children.
Yeah. Every brewer we've had on the show has done the same thing. I'm like, I love all my children, but
Every parent has a
you
favorite.
should be excited, and that's the thing too. Is like, I think when you're able to take time to really step back and like look at what you're brewing and like feel something more for it. You know, like looking at Booty Base on the app, like I'm so excited to make this beer. Like I'm so excited. You know, so I know that'll like already give it a leg up in my Fresh Fest collab. Like I don't want to release it because I don't have it finalized yet, but like the idea of like where I'm going with it, like I'm so excited, and I'm hoping other people will get excited about it too. And you know, and putting in those situations where other people can check it out at like a festival, you know, definitely going to have a cowbell to make sure everyone comes over to the table.
Nice.
For no other reason.
All right, Adam, I think it's down to you for the
It
podium.
comes down to me, and I'm going to differentiate from everybody here. I have to be the voice of dissension. The bronze medal, obviously everybody said it, but I got to say it again. None of these beers were bad whatsoever. All of these were really good. All of these are enjoyable. But I got to put that Brut IPA in the bronze medal position. I'm seeing heads shaking.
Shame.
And you know what? I'm sticking to my guns. And Steve, honestly, it's the same reason that you gave for putting that honey cream in the bronze medal position. It simply wasn't to your liking in terms of style. That's the only reason it goes there. I feel that it is definitely a recommended beer. If somebody is looking to get into that game, get in on that while you can, while it's still early, while it's still cutting edge. In the silver medal position, I am going to put that honeycomb cream ale in there. I like that. I really like that, especially for this time of year. It's really good for a back porch drinker. It's really refreshing. It's really borderline revitalizing. I'll admit, I was dragging a little bit of ass walking in here, but I had that beer and I felt much better. However, in the gold medal position, I got to go with that smoked porter. That was really good. That was just far and away, it exceeded all expectations. And I had high expectations. I've had good smoked porters before, and I knew Rock Bottom, it can obviously make good beers. But bottom line, that was a fantastic beer.
All right.
We're putting that on the list.
And that's the
Okay.
bottom line. Stone Cold says.
What? No. What?
No,
we're not doing it.
All right. If you're looking to follow Hop Nation USA on the social media, all you got to do is search Hop Nation USA, and they'll get you your favorite social media platform. It'll also get you any of the podcatchers that you can listen to brand new episodes every Friday. But if you happen to be on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review because we are a 5-star show.
Incorrect.
Oh, I'm incorrect?
You are incorrect. We are a 6-star show, but they only let us use 5.
Damn. That's a shame, iTunes. Get your shit together.
6'5", guys.
And you can find all kinds of episodes and reviews and features on HopNationUSA.com. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Brooke and Meg to plug whatever they want.
Awesome. Stewards of Beer. You can find us stewardsofbeer.com. You can find Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just look for Stewards of Beer, and you should be able to find us.
Okie doke.
Rock Bottom PGH at all your social media platforms. You should be able to find us there. Brewtal Beer Fest is at Brewtal Beer Fest on all social media platforms too.
Brew like beer. Brew.
Yeah, like brutal, like BREWTAL. Brutal.
And what day is that?
October 20th. We're gonna get down and party.
Nice.
You might
Right
make out with my
on. We
husband.
will see you there.
Cool. PinkBootsSociety.org for all your Pink Boots needs.
Cool.
They don't sell boots on their website, so don't go looking.
Well, no, Brooke already said she had to earn them.
That's right. Yeah, you earn your boots. I don't even have pink boots.
There's also 2 separate Facebook groups for the Pittsburgh chapter of Pink Boots Society. One is the members-only closed group that you have to be a member of to get added to, but then there's another public group that anyone can join to find out about our events, what's going on with our chapter, all that fun stuff.
And the national chapter has a Facebook page too. Just look for Pink Boots Society. That's like for us, you know, and anyone in the industry. It really is a great place. Like if you have a question about anything, literally, if you're looking for resources on like where to buy apparel, or you know, if you're looking for information on a beer style or whatever, literally, like that's kind of the source that we use.
Awesome.
Right on.
Well, thank you both for coming out.
Yes.
having
One final plug from our side of things. Please look on our website, hopnationusa.com, for our new series, Shotgunning with the Champ.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait! Why am I not on that show?
You are that show. That's it.
I am the show?
You are
Yeah,
the
you're the show. You just gotta send us videos of you shotgunning.
I'm probably gonna start doing that, guys.
Became the show.
I might have a couple already.
You already got the archive going.
I have a photo series from our collab day.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
We might be talking after the show. Once again, we've said it before and we'll say it again. Thank you guys for coming on the show. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
If you guys ever want to come back, let us know. We'll have you on again.
Well, we'll probably come back for a Brewtal Beer Fest episode at some point.
I'm okay with that too.
See if we can do another 6-person super show.
We'll get more mics, I promise.
All right, that's it. Do you got anything else?
No, I'm good, man.
Okay, bye.